Hello everyone, today I'm going to be sharing my favorite Dollar Tree DIYs. Before we begin, let me know your favorite season or holiday to decorate for down in the comments below. I used to love decorating for Christmas, but the past few years, Halloween has been my favorite, and maybe that's because I know we're getting closer to Christmas. I don't know, it's something about it I really like. Anyways, let me know your favorite down in the comments below. Now let's begin.
The next time you're in Dollar Tree, grab 2 of their pumpkin wire forms and zip ties. You're going to zip tie both forms together by placing them back to back. Now what you're going to do next is wrap lights around the wire. I'm using fairy lights, but you can use Christmas lights you have on hand, Halloween lights. It's completely up to you. Dollar Tree does carry lights as well. You just got to make sure they're outdoor lights if you're using this outside. And there you instantly have a piece that can be used outside. You can use stakes to stick it inside of the ground, or get the shower rings from Dollar Tree and wrap it around the wire and push that into the ground. You can also use this inside of the house if you want to. Grab a 3-pack of aluminum pie pans from Dollar Tree. Put some glue on the rim of the pan and glue the lid on with the paper side facing up. I'm mixing 2 paints together to try to get a pumpkin pie color that I then paint on the lid. I don't worry too much about the edges because that will be covered up. Next up, I purchased some Crayola Model Magic from Dollar Tree. I roll the clay in my hands to get a snake shape. Once it's long enough, I pour some hot glue on the edge of the lid and then glue down the Model Magic. As I glue it down, I smush it into the lid. I then took a fork and started to make indents inside of the Model Magic to make it look more like dough. I just painted this with some paints I mixed together to create a dough-like color. If you want a shiny look to your pie, add a layer of glossy Mod Podge. I only did this to one of the pies I made. Next up, you're going to need spackle. Dollar Tree carries spackle. If you do not need a lot, you can get it from Dollar Tree. But I recommend this Adapt spackle. It's a lightweight spackle, you get more bang for your buck, and it's my favorite one to use when making fake sweets. You'll need some piping bags and icing tips. You can find these at Dollar Tree. Put your spackle inside of the piping bag and then squeeze this right on top of your pumpkin pie. The Mod Podge dries clear and you are left with these adorable fake pumpkin pies. They're so easy to do and you can make 3 of them for under $7. The next time you're in Dollar Tree, purchase 4 of these pumpkin hanging signs, as well as a broom. You're going to remove your handle from the broom, then remove the rope that is attached to the signs. I figure out the layout of how I want my pumpkins to be attached before gluing them. Then I start to add my glue. I want them in the perfect spots. I also make sure I leave at least 5 inches of broomstick showing at the bottom. To attach my pumpkins to the broomstick, I'm using a mixture of E6000 and hot glue. You want to make sure that you're using a heavy-duty glue because hot glue melts in high heat. So if by chance it's hot outside, you don't want the broomstick falling off of the pumpkins. I then like to use some E6000 on the sides of the broomstick. Now I purchased 2 round styrofoam pieces and a planter from Dollar Tree. I'm going to be gluing my styrofoam pieces to the inside of my planter by using some hot glue. You can really go with any shape that you like. Next up, you're going to push your broomstick through the styrofoam. You need the bottom to be weighted, especially if this is going outside, so I just use some Dollar Tree stones to weigh the bottom. On top of the rocks, I'm placing some moss that I got from Dollar Tree just because I thought that this would give it a nicer look. You can find some really cute floral pumpkin picks at Dollar Tree right now. I placed a few of them at the bottom of my planter. And finally, I just placed 1 line of rope on my planter. I just thought it would look pretty this way. That's how I made this substantial piece using Dollar Tree products, and you can keep the cost of this under $10. You can use this inside or outside. It's completely up to you.
For this next DIY, you're going to get 2 of these wood plaques from Dollar Tree. Now you're going to use wood glue to stick them together. I own a staple gun, so I decided to use the staple gun all along one side where 2 of the plaques meet, and then on the other side that's actually going to be showing, I just put it at the ends. Now this is an older DIY. Looking back on it, I really didn't have to use a staple gun. Now I got some brown paint and paintbrushes. I prefer the paintbrushes that you use to paint walls. I just got them at Dollar Tree. I'm going to dip my brush into the paint and dry brush the paint onto the wooden plaque to make it look more like wood. The brush helps give it a wood grain appearance. That's why I prefer these type of paintbrushes versus the kind you use for crafting. I then go in with a darker brown paint to just add more tones and dimension to this to make it look more like a piece of wood. Now I got a toilet plunger from Dollar Tree. I'm going to be using the handle for this DIY. I'm just going to paint it again to match the wooden shelves. Now I got these plant hanger metal brackets from Dollar Tree. Now the bottom of them is actually going to be the front of my shelf. I'm going to bend it in a little bit just so that it could hold the wooden dowel from the toilet plunger. Now this part, I don't know why I didn't film it, but basically you're just going to screw these into the wall, place your wooden shelf on top of the brackets, and then the wooden dowel through the front of the little metal brackets, and there you have a shelf. You can also get some S hooks and hook them into the wooden dowel so you can hang mugs off of them. The reason I'm sharing this in this video is because I love the tones of it. I feel like it is perfect for fall.
Dollar Tree carries squishies that look like fake sweets, and they are great for DIYing. For instance, I got these cinnamon rolls. Now, I like to paint my squishies to mimic the color of the food it's supposed to be better. So I went in with that golden oak paint, and I painted the entire squishy except for the eyes. You need to do at least 2 layers of paint, I've noticed, when painting squishies to get an opaque look. Once the paint dries, I go in with cinnamon and I rub it into the squishy. Because I'm doing cinnamon rolls, this is gonna give it the perfect color. Next up, I'm gonna mix an off-white acrylic paint with some Mod Podge in the glossy finish. I like to do about 40% paint to 60% Mod Podge. The reason I mix the two together is so that I have a glossy finish to the paint that lasts. Once I have all the paint mixed, I then go ahead and paint the top of the cinnamon roll. While that paint is still wet, I do sprinkle some cinnamon on the top, and I do this while the paint is still wet so that it sticks. Next up, I just painted back on the facial features. That's it. You can display this with the faces facing toward you, or you can turn them around for the more realistic look, which is what I like. And I love the way these came out. They are so easy to make.
For our next DIY, I'm going to be using these wooden trays that I got from Dollar Tree, as well as these wood planks that are also from Dollar Tree. They're about 12 inches long. What I'm going to do is I'm going to glue, just using hot glue, a wood plank to one of the bottoms of one of the wooden trays from Dollar Tree. I'm going to put some glue onto the side of the wooden tray, which is technically now the top of the wooden tray, and I'm going to add another wood plank. This is an older DIY from Dollar Tree, so I got wooden rulers. Dollar Tree still carries these, but now they carry actual slats of wood that you can use instead. So what I'm doing is I'm using 2 packs of the wooden rulers, removing the inches that are on them, and then I'm just gluing them to the sides of what it is that I'm creating. Then I got some wood planks, also from Dollar Tree. I had stained some of them previously. I'm just gluing them underneath the sides of what I'm making. And then I got large wood pallets. I'm going to be gluing some of those together. Now, when I did this DIY, everything was still $1. So it might be a little bit more pricey to make now, but you can always make it smaller. And like I said, Dollar Tree carries larger pieces of wood now that you can use instead of getting a bunch of $1.25 pieces of wood. So I glued 3 pallets together and I made 2 sets of these. Then I'm just going to glue them kind of where they meet to create a roof. Now this roof, I didn't glue down, I didn't screw on, I just placed it on the top when I needed it. Now I'm going to stain everything using my Varathane walnut stain. I also got smaller pallets that I decided to place on top of this. This isn't necessary, I just had them on hand. I put my roof back on, and basically what I'm making is a small little pumpkin stand to display some little pumpkins. I got a chalkboard from Dollar Tree, and then I used my Cricut to cut out some vinyl. If you do not have a Cricut, you can use stickers. You can use a chalk marker. The Cricut is just convenient because, I mean, the handwriting doesn't look as nice as this, I think, for most of us. So I just prefer to use my Cricut. And then that's how I made this little pumpkin stand that is absolutely adorable. And because it's a stand, you can display whatever you want on that. Next up, I got some would-be garland from Dollar Tree and some pumpkin clips. All I'm doing is clipping the pumpkins to the garland. I am moving the beads so that I can clip the pumpkins onto the twine that's underneath there. And I'm making sure I'm counting the beads so I have the same amount of beads between each pumpkin. I'm going to make some tassels for my garland. To do this, I take some twine, wrap it around my hand. Then I take another piece of twine and tie that around the wrap twine that I wrapped around my hand, and then I'm going to cut into one side, creating that tassel look. And then I'm just going to tie that to the garland, and that's it. It's really easy to do, and Dollar Tree does carry pumpkin garland now. The only thing is the pumpkins on there are smaller, so I prefer this much more than what you could already buy for $1.25.
You're going to get a car wash sponge from Dollar Tree. You're going to start cutting the pieces of the sponge to make small little squares. They don't have to be perfect whatsoever. They can even be larger squares. It just depends what it is you're going to use as the base for this project. Now place the pieces of sponge that you cut up into a bowl that you don't mind getting paint inside of. What you're going to do is you are going to pour paint on top of the sponge pieces and then use your hands to go ahead and rub that paint inside of the sponges. You probably want a glove on hand to do this. These are supposed to be apple chunks, so use whatever color you want for the color of your apple chunks. I'll be putting my sponge pieces inside of this metal bottle cap from Dollar Tree. You can also use the aluminum pie pans from Dollar Tree if you want to. I'm making fake apple pies. Last year I made some fake pumpkin pies. I want some apple pies to go along with that. So I got some Model Magic from Dollar Tree. These are little 1-ounce packages. So what I did is I got a big chunk together and now I'm just going to roll it out using a non-stick rolling pin. Make sure everything you're using is not stuff you actually use for real food. So I have a rolling pin just for my fake sweets, a cutting board for my fake sweets, knives for my fake sweets. So now I'm just going to take a scissor and I'm cutting off little strips that I'm going to use to start creating the look of my crust. I then start to place these pieces on top of my fake pie, pushing it into the metal tin and then just cutting it if it's a little too long. For the crust that is around the tin, I use my fingers to just kind of pinch it, creating what looks like little waves so it looks more realistic. I waited 24 hours for the Model Magic to completely dry and then I painted it. I used a color called Golden Glow by the brand Folk Art. Finally, I got some real cinnamon and I used my finger to start rubbing the cinnamon on top of the Model Magic, and this gives it a super realistic look. It gives you the color that you need. I'm not always the biggest fan of using real ingredients on my fake food. However, cinnamon is a deterrent to a lot of bugs and mice, so it's not like they're gonna come to the fake food and try to eat that. So when all is said and done, I have these super adorable fake apple pies, which is perfect for my fall decor. And I love to do fake sweets because, I mean, how many pumpkin DIYs do you have to see? At least this is something a little bit different. Dollar Tree has these really nice pumpkins for $1.25. I really like the colors. I like that they're a little bit more of an off orange color, an off white color, so they look a bit more realistic. So I removed the top of a few of my pumpkins and I'm going to be gluing them on top of each other. The very top pumpkin, I didn't remove the top off of it. I'll be using a metal bucket for this DIY, and I placed one of those bottle caps inside of the bucket. I have shared so many different ways on my channel of filling up your buckets, whether it's with rocks or moss from Dollar Tree. I decided to give this a go. That way I wouldn't have to fill up the bottom of this with multiple packs of something else. It doesn't fit perfectly inside of the planter, so I did use some glue to make sure it didn't go anywhere. I then glued the pumpkin on top of the bottle cap. Now I got these really pretty silver dollars from Dollar Tree. I am going to attach them off of the one that I bought, and I am actually going to use that over 3 topiaries that I'm making. I just put the pieces around the bottle cap. You can glue them down if you want to. That's it. These are really easy to make and they come out really nice. They look like something that you would buy at like Kirkland's or something. You can use them as centerpieces or you can just use it as decor in any room that you like. For this next project, I'm going to be using 2 rectangle and 2 square wood pieces. I'm attaching them by using wood glue. They line up perfectly so you don't have to do any wood cutting. I use something to hold up the sides as the glue dries. You can stain the wood if you like, just make sure you sand it down. I decided that I wanted to use an acrylic paint on the wood. So I started off with this color by Apple Barrel called Territorial Beige. I did that as my base color. I want to give this a distressed look. To do that, I'm going to be dry brushing my paint on. So basically you take a stiff brush that's dry, dip it into some paint, remove most of the paint off of the brush, and then go over your material in very light strokes. And this is going to create a scratchy type of look. It helps something look like a wood grain if you're trying to go for that effect. I really love to dry brush. Now you can start filling your box up. I'm using these leaves from Dollar Tree as well as the silver dollars. I also put some bamboo skewers through those pumpkins to make picks out of them. I put styrofoam I got from Dollar Tree at the bottom of the box, so I had to remove each stem off of the main bunch. I prefer to use styrofoam because then you could place pieces exactly where you want them to be and it's not going to fall over. Also, you can put a bottom to your box. I just didn't because I didn't have another piece of wood on hand. I also put some of these floral pieces inside of the box. I wanted more pumpkins in my box, so I'm going to be using these knit pumpkins I got from Dollar Tree. They're picks, so you can actually just put them around the floral picks and they stay put. We're going to set up the table for this centerpiece. I'm going to be using these fake wood plates I got from Hobby Lobby. Dollar Tree has this silverware that is placed in a napkin for easy setup. I switched the silver disposal silverware with gold disposable silverware. I got this pack for $5 at Target. For just $1.25, Dollar Tree has this 4-pack of faux leather words that you can place directly on top of your napkin. I added a little white plate with this, and Dollar Tree carries so many different ones to choose from, and that's it. That's how I did this centerpiece plus the table setup. In the Dollar Tree Plus section, you can find these pie garlands right now for $3. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a few of the pies off of the string. Then I got this pillow cover from Dollar Tree. I'm just going to glue some of the pie pieces on the front of the pillow cover. You can always sew them in place, but hot glue it's fine for something like this. When you open up the pillowcase, there is some creasing going on, so I just glued the back and the very tip of the pies on the side first. Then I get my pillow in and finish gluing it in place. I just wanted to make sure that I didn't glue it over a crease, and then I end up with those creases permanently there on my pillowcase. These are so fun, and they go really well with those pumpkin pie slices you see. The Dollar Tree Plus section recently got in these little boxes that have floral inside of them. Now, I recommend getting 2 of them and gluing them together by using wood glue. I have done things like this, exactly like this, in the past before using Dollar Tree products, and it's so much cheaper to buy just 2 of them already made and glue them together, and it's easier to do. Back in the past, I've used crates to glue them together, pieces of wood from Dollar Tree to glue a box together, and then you have to buy the floral, and you need quite a bit of floral to make it look full. It's cheaper to do this. So there are some benefits to the Dollar Tree Plus section. There are things that are easier to just buy them than it is to DIY them. I decided to take a wooden DIY ladder from Dollar Tree, painted white, and then glue it to the front of this. I went with Hello Autumn. It's just to make it scream fall a little bit more. I put some fairy lights from Dollar Tree inside of this to really make it glow. Now, I'm making a tablescape with this, so to add to my table, I got these pumpkins from Dollar Tree for $5 in the Plus section. Another great buy. And this time around, I'm just going to take some of this rhinestone trim. I got it from Hobby Lobby. It's $2.99, but I got it 40% off. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to glue it. I'm just going to make some glam pumpkins with this. So I just glue the trim all around my pumpkin. I had 2 of them, and I placed them on the sides of my little wooden box, and now I have this beautiful tablescape. The boxes with the 2 pumpkins were $20, which is a really inexpensive price when it comes to creating a seasonal tablescape. Dollar Tree recently got in these DIY wood framed pieces. I'm going to be gluing 4 of them together by using wood glue. Now, there are little hooks on the back of this. I removed all of the hooks on the back of these except for 2 that are at the top, and I left them there just in case I want to hang this. To make the piece sturdier, I got some craft sticks from Dollar Tree, and I'm just gluing them to the back of the frames. This just really does a good job of making this sturdier, like I said, so when you're picking it up, the frames aren't just gonna bend backwards and snap in half. Dollar Tree carries these little wooden pallets. I went ahead and bought 6 of them. I stained them, and then I'm gluing some together. Then I take those pieces, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue them to the top of my frames. Now, I used hot glue to do this, but I recommend using a mixture of wood glue and hot glue. I only use hot glue for video purposes, but the reason why you want to use a mixture of both is because wood glue is going to make sure it goes nowhere, but hot glue is going to glue it down in the angle you want right away. So as you're waiting for the hot glue to dry, you just hold the pieces in place so they don't go anywhere. I'm going to hang a wreath on the front of this. So to do that, I just got a small little screw and I screw it into place. Then I hang my wreath right off of this. And this is just a window pane with like an awning on the front of it. I think that's what you call it. This is something I used to do a lot back in the day, and I haven't done it in a very long time, but I wanted to do it because I felt like it worked really well for all of the fall decor that I made recently. It's easy to do, and it's just a really fun piece, especially if you love farmhouse decor. This is not a DIY, but something I want to share. Dollar Tree has this beautiful cheese board for $5 right now. It is perfect, especially if you're trying to bring something over to somebody's house for the fall season, or you're gonna have some people over. It's a decent size and it's just a gorgeous piece. It comes with a small little knife. I absolutely love it. So I wanted to share that in this video because it is a fall item, and a fall item that I think is worth it, and you don't have to DIY. Our next DIY, you're going to need one of the half styrofoam balls from Dollar Tree, some disposable bags, your spackle, and this time around I'm using a flour drop tip I got for 99 cents at Hobby Lobby. I go ahead and fill up my piping bag with the spackle. What you're going to do is you're going to get a styrofoam plate, and you are going to put some spackle down and place your styrofoam ball on top of the spackle. You treat the spackle as if it were icing. You just go ahead and create a little design around your styrofoam ball. So I just keep going around it until I get this whipped cream look. Fall is one of the rare times I use real ingredients for my mug toppers. I'm going to be using cinnamon sticks and cinnamon. I place cinnamon sticks inside of the spackle and then pour some cinnamon with my fingers on top of the spackle. I want a caramel drizzle. To make this, I'm using my Mod Podge in the glossy finish and some paint. I pour it inside of a sandwich bag. I tend to do more Mod Podge than paint. You just kind of eyeball it. I use my fingers to knead the bag. This mixes the glue and the paint together. Once it's mixed, I cut the tip of the bag. The paint will then come out, and I just drizzle it right over my spackle. I chose a clear glass from Dollar Tree that I'm going to paint the inside of so that it is a pumpkin spice color. I've actually never had pumpkin spice, so if this is not the correct color, I'm just going based off of what I think it would look like. Wait 24 hours before doing this next step. You're going to take your scissors and cut the styrofoam around your spackle. And then you can place this directly on the mug. Now you want to wait at least a week before you then do this next step. You can then take off that styrofoam from the bottom of the topper and everything will stay in place. But you gotta wait a week because you really need everything to harden. I got these pumpkin spice knockoff Starbucks labels from Etsy and I printed them out. I'll link the seller I used down below for you guys, but you can always go to Starbucks and cut out the image that's on your cup. I'm gluing this to the front of my glass. These are just, oh my gosh, they're just so cute. Mug toppers are the reason why I love to make fake sweets. They started my love for it. I just think it's so cute. Here's an easy Model Magic DIY. Roll your Model Magic into a snake shape again and then roll it together so it creates a donut shape. I then tried my best to mix together a apple cider donut color, which was a little bit hard. I used Folk Art paint in Golden Glow and then Anita paint in Moccasin Brown. I can't say it was the perfect apple cider color, so once I had my first layer down, I decided to stipple on the Moccasin Brown color because I needed to darken it up a bit. So I just kind of kept messing around with the paint, and then I went in with the Golden Oak color and I put it mainly around the sides of the donut to really make it look like an apple cider donut. Now I'm going to sprinkle on some fake sugar. I'll link the seller that I bought this from down below. I got it from Etsy. What you do is you'll put a clear glue on top of the donut and then sprinkle on the sugar. I'll be placing my donuts inside of these rectangular pans I got from Dollar Tree. They were too big for the 6 donuts I made, so I made the pan smaller by cutting one in half and then gluing the halves together. That's how I made these adorable fake apple cider donuts. Don't place these inside of the kitchen. Maybe put something that says do not eat if there's somebody in your house that you think might eat these. For our next DIY, I'm going to be using one of these rolls of foam from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to cut them down into little pieces. To cut through the foam, I used a kitchen knife, and I worked the knife in very slowly. You don't want to rush this. To make it easy to paint the foam, I'm going to put some bamboo skewers through the foam, and then I start to paint them with my 3D dimensional paint. I painted on little pink cheeks with that same pink paint that I used earlier, and that's how I made some mini marshmallows. This was super inexpensive and easy to do. But we're going to make this even cuter. I purchased a wood crate from Dollar Tree and I just went ahead and painted it, literally painted whatever color you want. Now I'm going to take some Model Magic and roll it out. I then take a square shaped cookie cutter and cut out the model magic. I'm going to be creating a graham cracker. I go in with my bamboo skewer and start to create the design that I need for my graham cracker. With the rest of the clay I have left, I create a rectangle shape and then smaller rectangles that I place on top of the bigger one to make it look like chocolate. Once the dough is dried, you can then paint your graham cracker and chocolate. Then put everything together. I put some tissues on the bottom of the crate to dummy it up, and then I placed my marshmallows, graham crackers, and chocolate. I ended up making a little sign that, if I remember, I'll link down below, that I cut out and glued to the front of my crate, and this is just one of the cutest pieces of decor I've ever made. It's so adorable and would work really, really well in a tier tray. Go to Dollar Tree and pick up one of their barrel planters. I painted this with my folk art paint in Golden Glow, and right away I transformed it for fall. You can leave it the color it already is, but this I feel like more has that fall vibe. And then I filled it up with some fake apples. That was literally it. It is super cute this way. The other thing you can do is get 2 barrels. I painted mine again with the Golden Glow color, and then glue those two together to get a whole barrel. We're going to be using the wood planks yet again, as well as the longer wood planks, slats, whatever you want to call them, that you can get from Dollar Tree. I'm going to use these pieces to create a box I can use as a centerpiece. So for the sides of my box, I use the square wooden planks. For the front and the back of the box, I use the longer, bigger pieces of wood. And I do use 2 of those longer pieces of wood for the front and the back. And I kind of secure them in place by using another wooden plank that I just place on the inside of the box. So you can't see it, but it's there to add extra security to all of this. Again, I used hot glue, but I recommend using wood glue. So I ended up using 4 of the wooden square planks total, and then 4 of the bigger wooden pieces total. If you want to, you can glue wooden pieces to the bottom of your box. I decided not to do that, but if you do that, it makes it easy to move the box around without spilling whatever you put in the inside out. I stained the wood off camera using that early American Varathane stain, and to the front of the box I'm going to glue on a chalkboard. I also got this from Dollar Tree, and I stained it using the Varathane stain. I removed the stand off of the chalkboard piece, and then I placed a vinyl piece that I cut out. You can put whatever you want. I put Smith Family Pumpkin Patch Established 2020. You can do something generic like I did, or you can do something more detailed. It's up to you. I absolutely love what the chalkboard does for this box. It takes it from being just a regular plain box into something that is gorgeous and, in my opinion, a conversation starter. I can see people being like, where did you get that from? And you're like, I made it myself. I added some Dollar Tree floral to my box, as well as real floral that I actually got at a wedding the weekend before. I love the way that this turned out. Right now, Dollar Tree has these ceramic pumpkins that look knitted. They can be hard to paint. I'm going to share with you how to do it so they still look nice. You need at least 3 paints, 2 that are similar in color, but one will be a little bit lighter and one will be darker. Then you just need a plain white paint. I recommend using a paint sponge to paint. You're going to start off with your base color. This is going to be the lighter of the 2 similar colors. Paint the entire pumpkin with that base color. While the paint is still wet, go in with your darker color. And you're going to use this to shade in different areas, or just paint in areas that you want there to be a darker color. And you want to do this when the paint is still wet so that both colors blend in real nicely together. Now dip your paint sponge in white paint and then lightly glide the brush over the pumpkin. And this is going to highlight the higher areas of the pumpkin, so basically the part that looks knitted. This is going to highlight it so it stands out more. Doesn't matter the colors you use, you just want to do the same concept, a base color, a darker color, and then white. This time around I had this green paint and I didn't have a color darker that was similar to that, so I just mixed in some black paint with the green to get the darker green that I needed, and then I went in with the white paint as usual. This is mainly for the main base of the pumpkin. For the stem of the pumpkin, you don't have to do that. For instance, this particular pumpkin, I decided to go with a gold and brown stem. That's how you paint these knitted pumpkins the easier way, beside having to paint every little detail by hand. It would get really repetitive. DIY, I'm going to be using 2 of these unfinished boards from Dollar Tree. I'm going to cut one of them down, and I'm just using scissors to do this. If you use scissors like I did, it's not the hardest to do. It just takes a little bit of working through the board. Next up, I'm going to be using these monogram pumpkins I got from Dollar Tree. I started off with one of the L pumpkins, and I used that pumpkin to attach both of my boards together. I glue it to the very center of where the boards meet, and this made it so that they were attached and really secured in place. If you are not able to find the letters on the pumpkins that you need, you can always paint over the letters and add a new letter. So for instance, you can see it says tall. I had to paint over the T to make an F so that it said fall. I went ahead and I added a bow to the top of this. I used this burlap ribbon from Dollar Tree to make the bow. I did glue on a little white pumpkin from Dollar Tree to the center of my bow. I then flipped this over, and with the extra piece of board that I had cut off, I go ahead and glue that to the back where the 2 pieces of board meet, and that way it adds a little bit more security to my sign. And now you have this really pretty fall sign. You can use it on top of a shelf, on a mantle, or you can place it on top of a porch or the front of your house. From Dollar Tree, pick up some glass candle holders. I got these Mercury looking ones, and I add some fairy lights to the inside of them. The fairy lights I got from Dollar Tree, and they just make everything look really pretty and just glow. I'm using 3 candle holders total. And I'll also be using some Dollar Tree floral picks. They're different than the stems. You're going to find them underneath where all the floral stems are. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take zip ties and tie the picks together. This way it becomes one entire unit without being a bunch of little picks here and there, and every time I want to move everything around, I have to remove each individual pick and then place it in a new spot. And the nice thing about using the zip ties is you don't have to deal with the mess of hot glue. So I just kind of figure out where I want the picks to be, and then I start zip tying everything together. You'll have to bend around the picks to get them in the perfect position that you want them to be. And some of the picks you might want to remove a leaf or a pine cone and place those pieces somewhere else. It's going to be completely up to you. And once you have that all figured out, you can add whatever you want to the inside of your candle holders. I did 2 different versions. One where I put some Dollar Tree fake grass pieces and eucalyptus. And then I did one where I put real floral inside of the glass containers. I also added 2 pumpkins to this side, but this was really easy to do, and because I use zip ties, it's easy to move around. So I'm going to be using these brass wreath rings that I got from Dollar Tree. There's 3 different sizes in a pack. I'm also going to be using some floral from Dollar Tree. I really like these blue leaves with the white pumpkins. I wanted to give them a try. And what I'll do is, again, I'll use my zip ties, and I'm going to tie my pieces into place. And let me tell you, using zip ties for something like this is a game changer. When you use hot glue, especially on a wreath ring where it's so thin, it becomes a big mess and things start sticking to places you don't want them to stick. You end up burning your finger. The zip ties are a game changer. All you have to do is cut the zip tie once you have your pieces in place, and then if you want to, you can use some wire cutters to cut down on the floral stems. You'll end up using hot glue eventually to add pieces of floral here and there to fill empty gaps, but at least there's a base for the floral pieces to stick to. So as you see, I have my floral pieces on, and then I went ahead and I cut the zip ties off. Now I'm going to be taking this burlap ribbon, and I'm going to cut a piece that I'm going to wrap around all 3 of my rings. And once I have that piece cut down to the size that I want it to be, I glue the ribbon together to close it off. Then I'm going to glue on some of these really pretty flowers that I got from Dollar Tree. They are hop bush flowers, I guess. And I just glue those in between spaces that I think need a little bit of a more pop of color, or spaces that look a little bit empty to me. But you can see now that I have those floral pieces on, the little flowers that I'm sticking in have a good base to stick to, rather than me trying to stick that to the ring, and like I said, I have hot glue spilling everywhere. I ended up hanging up the wreath while I glued on the flowers so I can see exactly where I wanted them to go. And that was it. You can hang this up using the ribbon at the top, or you can place the rings on top of like a nail or something. It's completely up to you. I really like the way this wreath turned out. Now moving on to this throw pillow. Usually I use 2 of the Dollar Tree placemats to make the throw pillows. This time around, I'm just going to be using 1. Now I wanted to put something on the front of this that was different, so I decided to use a stencil. So what you're going to need is a sponge, some paint. Honestly, I was using this fabric paint. It sucked, and I just went to a white Apple Barrel acrylic paint from Walmart. And then you can get a stencil. So I prefer the sticky type of stencils. This one is from Hobby Lobby, half off. I think I spent around $4 for it. I can't remember off the top of my head. And I just prefer the sticky kind so much better because it really does help prevent bleeding when it sticks on there nice and easy rather than having to tape the stencil around. Now I'm sure you can print out your own stencils, cut them out. It's up to you, but this one I'm using is from Hobby Lobby and it worked great. So I go ahead, take the sticker off, place it on top of the placemat, and then use my sponge and paint to start painting inside of the stencil. They say that you can bounce the stencil around, so basically stipple it, not the stencil, the sponge, to prevent bleeding, but honestly I was just kind of smearing the paint on, and then after the first couple of layers dried with me just painting it on like normal, I then started to stipple it on, so basically bounce the sponge up and down, and then I go ahead and I take the stencil off, and it was perfect. Like I had no bleeding at all. It was perfect. After you remove the stencil, wait for that paint to completely dry before moving on to the next step. The next step is filling up the placemat with some pillow stuffing. I recommend going to Walmart or Target, getting one of their inexpensive pillows and taking the stuffing out of the pillow versus buying the fibers on its own. It's much more expensive to do it that way. It's less expensive to just buy a pillow and take the stuffing out of it. So what you're going to do is you are going to cut a hole between the front of the placemat and the back of the placemat. There are 2 different fabrics holding that placemat together, and you're going to cut a hole there that you are going to start feeding the pillow stuffing inside of. And obviously you can make the pillow as thick or thin as you want it to. Normally what I do is I take 2 placemats and I put the stuffing between those 2 placemats and I glue around the edges, and then I realized I could just take the material that's already in the back of the placemat off and feed the stuffing, and I don't have to use hot glue. It's just gonna last way longer, and I don't have to be as gentle with it if I just use the hot glue. Obviously if you know how to sew, or you can even hand sew that little hole that you made, because it's not a really big hole. I mean, this thing could last you much longer than just the hot glue way. Once you got your pillow stuffing in, you can then either, like I said, sew that little opening you made, or you can hot glue it. I chose to hot glue it because girl don't know how to sew. I want to learn real soon though. And then I'm done with the throw pillow. I just needed $1 worth of products from Dollar Tree. Now obviously it costs a little bit more because I needed stuffing and I got the stencil, but I can obviously use the stencil so many more times, and then I have a lot more stuffing to create a lot more throw pillows. I'll show you how to create these cute little palette coasters. So Dollar Tree right now has small little unfinished wood palettes. They're very small, perfect for a coaster, and I ended up staining mine with that Varathane dark walnut wood stain that I used in the beginning of the video. And now I'm going to be taking these wood beads from Hobby Lobby, originally $1.49, and I got them for 50% off, so it cost me 75 cents. So all I'm doing is I'm gluing these beads to the bottom of the palette. You can use a wood glue. I'm pretending actually to use hot glue right now because our power turned off when I was doing this, so I was like pretending even though nothing was coming out. But wood glue is totally fine. It's not like there's a bunch of fumes coming from wood glue. I love the way this came out so much. This thing only cost me $1.75 to make because I already had the wood stain on hand. If you don't have wood stain, you can always go to Apple Barrel, or not Apple Barrel, Walmart, and go to the Apple Barrel paint section, and they have paints there for 59 cents. So you can make a bunch of these for a very inexpensive price.
So that is it for the video. If you made it to the end of the video, leave a leaf emoji down in the comments below so I know you made it to the end. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Take care. Bye.